Hey fam, it's your girl Nachi, and I'm here with.
Damaris, your favorite emotional terrorist, but I only use my powers for good, never evil, unless you push me.
So you say.
The only time I terrorize you guys is when I wanted you to feel my love so much, and I would send cards with heartfelt messages, and I didn't feel good unless I learned that mommy or papi cried when they read my card because I want them to feel how much I loved and appreciated them. And then I was just like, my job is done. Good. I'm happy that you're crying. Tears of joy and happiness, not
Wow.
sadness. I don't do that, guys.
Wow.
But I knew
And
what I
this,
was doing.
yeah. And I think this is a good segue into our topic for today
Yes.
triggering people. And for Damara's sake, she does it for good.
Yes.
But, you have those who are very toxic. So, there are people out there that their life mission is to keep you all riled up. And really, it's not just that one toxic cousin or sister.
Wow.
My
Watch your
sister's not
mouth.
toxic. No, my
Thank you.
sister's not toxic.
Watch your mouth.
But we're also talking about news, social media, corporations, even your friendly neighborhood government, Because if you're triggered, you're easier to control, easier to sell to, and just basically easier to gaslight. And we see that a lot in today. And I think that's always been the case. We're just waking up to that idea and knowing that that's what's going on. So today we want to, talk about why the world wants you to be emotionally messy and how to spot the manipulation game and what happens when you stop letting people play with your peace basically. So let's get real quiet and real powerful with our own peace. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, no, I love how you succinctly put that all together because that's exactly what we want to get at today, the heart of the manipulation that we're surrounded by constantly, right? And
Yeah.
and you have to always think about, well, who does it benefit to emotionally manipulate me? And you've pointed out great examples of those entities and people, your family included, anybody, your friends. Some people are going to try to do that. And so to me, it always starts with very easily understanding yourself by understanding why do you get triggered and by what actually triggers you, because when you're triggered you become emotionally dysregulated. And I want to explain so that we're all on the same page with what we mean by emotionally dysregulated or emotional dysregulation. It's referring to that inability to manage your emotional response in a healthy way. So think of, explosive reactions, violent reactions, having very intense emotions, difficulty controlling impulsive behaviors, and struggling to regulate your mood swings, which obviously can lead to challenges within your relationships, work, school, your life in general. And I always find it interesting, and I think so. Nachi knows this, and anyone close to me knows this, that I am a huge fan of dating reality shows.
Yes, you
And
love it.
so it's not just any reality shows because many reality shows they thrive off of people being emotionally dysregulated. So I can't just watch any reality show because I have to temper that external content that could then affect me, right? But that's why I enjoy the dating ones because I really honestly should have been an anthropologist. I should have studied that because I love to observe culture and how humans react within this society and what leads them to their decision making. So for me, dating is always fascinating because there's so many things that I wouldn't do what I see on TV, but that is because of how I was raised, just who I am as an individual. So I find it fascinating when people move differently. I'm
Yeah,
just like,
well,
what?
even the time that you grew up in, so all that is
Yeah,
different than,
exactly. Just a
dating back
different
then is
generation,
different. Yeah,
all of
is
it.
different today. Yep.
But I bring it up because what kind of like brought to mind this idea of like us discussing emotional manipulation was watching season 7 of Love Island USA. And it was like the perfect example of, it was like a microcosm of today's society, in that you have an emotionally dysregulated individual just having crazy outbursts that in my opinion were extreme, unnecessary, and just not a healthy way of communicating and controlling their not even controlling but regulating their emotions, like allowing someone else to dysregulate you so much that you're just like crazy outbursts, impulsive behavior, and you're affecting not just yourself but everyone else in that villa. So it irritated me to no end.
Right.
That being said, it then showed individuals with what I would say were healthy boundaries. And they're like, I need a moment. I can't talk to you right now. But the reaction of the fans throughout the season is what blew my mind, because I felt like I was being gaslit by the fans.
So please explain.
The fans were loving the emotionally dysregulated person to the sense that, to the point that, in my opinion, her behavior was being coddled. Right? They're just like, well, she was triggered. It was everyone else's fault for why she reacted the way she did. And
And do
then,
you think, just for
yeah.
a second, do you think part of people going after those dysregulated, these emotional dysregulated folks, are pretty much projecting their own issues? Like, I feel like they were suppressed at a certain time in their, it could be with their childhood
Mhm.
where they were suppressed, and now they see someone being suppressed in some kind of way that they feel they're being
Actually,
suppressed, and
one
they're reacting as if they were in that situation.
percent projection. Because to me, this is again not to say that this person wasn't dragged in the beginning. She was.
Right,
But
right,
then she became a victim, and everyone is like, so when it came time for other people in the villa to set their boundaries, express their frustration, the problem was that when they did that, then it became, were you setting boundaries? Were you trying to tell her something? Now you're a mean girl. So then they painted people who were actually more emotionally regulated as
right,
mean girls. And I was just like, mind blown, because let me tell you this right now. If that were me, I would be mean girl from day one, because
right.
I
Yeah,
live with boundaries. And the problem that arose from that experience was that the people that were the most emotionally regulated, they held back from the beginning of being more upfront with those individuals that were emotionally dysregulated, because you try to keep the peace, you try to coddle certain people, you don't really
right,
know them, this is a TV show.
right,
But had they set their boundaries from the beginning and been more clear throughout, and not let it get to the point where they became frustrated, and so when they expressed their boundaries, yeah, they didn't say it nicely, they were tired, they were just like, they were calling people out, they were calling that individual out on on the shit that she was doing wrong. And then it became like, oh, she's being ganged up on. No, people were just tired of her shit. And so
right,
I say all this because when I watched that show and I watched the fans' reaction, number one, it was a lot of new fans that watched it and they were all under 18. A
of
lot of the
course, yes.
So I'm just like, number one, get your frontal lobes developed before you even really engage in this. You shouldn't even be watching this show, to be honest.
True, true.
And so then, I'm like, who's gonna argue with teenagers? I'm not gonna do it. Don't come at me. I don't really care.
Right,
So all of that to say is just that I was just shocked at when you become emotionally regulated and people don't like it, people don't like your boundaries, this is the reaction you're gonna get. And that is because, like you so astutely observed, is that a lot of this is projection of why people supported that kind of behavior. And so I go back to, why do you get so easily triggered? Or what, or not even so easily triggered, because maybe you're not easily triggered, but the idea of like, when you're triggered, what do you do in that moment? Do you stop and before you react? And part of that is like training yourself, conditioning yourself, because it's not something that you can do overnight, but you could do with the little things that trigger you, so that by the time those bigger triggers come, you're better equipped to handle that. And
right,
so it's just like, for me, when something's bothering me, and I'm like, why do I feel funny? Why do I feel triggered? I have to sit with myself and ask myself, why this? Why that? And usually it comes to, in my opinion, about when you feel you're triggered and you're asking yourself those questions, it's then, did you have boundaries in place so that wouldn't occur for you?
right, right.
And if you did you communicate those boundaries? Because people have boundaries, but then the person that they're engaging with doesn't know that.
Yes,
So you
absolutely.
can't put that responsibility on them. You know, Going back to that Love Island season. while, yes, she reacted a certain way, y'all also created an environment that allowed her, that she felt it was okay to react this way. Now, granted, there's editing. So maybe, some people have said, like, oh, yeah, no, well, we did call her out. We did say this. They didn't show it. It's 1 hour out of a 24-hour day, which was unfortunate because, and it's not me bashing this one particular individual. I hope she gets better. I think she needs help. I mean, yeah, she does.
Right, right.
And so, but it's just this idea of like, okay, did you communicate those boundaries?
Yeah, and I think
Sometimes
that's
you
the
can't make those
key.
assumptions, right? You
Right.
can't make that assumption.
You can't. And it goes, like you said, it goes back to setting those boundaries. And I think about, with my own personal experience and how I would get triggered, especially when I would be in relationships with men, how I may get triggered and I lash out. Then there's this big blow up. But if I had set boundaries from the very beginning, if I didn't let things slide, if I didn't coddle other people's feelings, we wouldn't get to this place where it's like, are you for real right now? Like, what are we doing right here?
Because you're looking around like they're crazy or like you're crazy, but it's just like, no, they probably didn't really understand or know, even though it seems so logical to you.
Right, right. And again, it's about communicating those boundaries. And it reminds me, I feel like, I gotta pat myself in the back because, when my children do good, I gotta say thank you to me.
Okay, okay.
But it reminds me of a situation my daughter had with a young girl that she used to be friends with. And I liked her. I thought she was really cool. And all of a sudden, I don't know how it came up, but she said, "Oh yeah, we're no longer friends." And I said, "Oh, well, what happened?" She said, "Nothing. She just seems very, clingy and needy, and I just don't have the capacity for that." And I told her we can't be friends. And I said,
Okay, niece, I love it.
I
Yes.
said, my mom was like, why you being, well, that's kind of mean, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
initially, but
Sure.
I asked her a question. I said, so
Yeah.
what do you mean by that? Like, what happened? And she said, well, she said that she has her own set of friends and the other girl has her set of friends. But if, my daughter wants to hang out with her other friends, the other girl felt like she should have been inviting her, she should have been involved. And my daughter was like, girl, I
Right.
mean,
You
why do
have your
I
own
need to,
friends too.
right? Like, why do I need to pull you into my mix? Like, it's not that serious. And it was like a constant, like, she was constantly, I don't want to say harass her, but always bringing it up. And it was just bothering my daughter, like she felt like, come on, girl, this is not that serious. So she recognized that and said, you know what? I really don't have the capacity for that. And she said, like, we just can't be friends. And the girl said, well, we know, similar people. How can we not be friends? And she said, easy. We don't have to be friends. And she's just like, my daughter, her mind was just blown. Like, girl, it doesn't matter. I'm not saying that we got to be mean to each other or
Right, right.
we just don't have to be friends.
Yes.
We don't have to call each other. We don't have to, forcibly hang out with each other. If we
Right,
happen to be in the same circle, in the same setting, okay. Like there's no big deal. And then I understood where she was coming from. And I said, okay, good for you. But that initial thought, and again, that's like my own issue of, oh, you can't be, you got to try to be kind to people. But she was being kind.
right, right. Because it,
She
it
was being
does,
kind.
yes. And it's just in the delivery. So while she didn't say it mean,
Mm,
she didn't say it in a mean way. It seems harsh, but at the same time, she needs to put herself first. And
exactly.
I love that right now for my niece because when I when I think about one of the friendships that no longer exists for me, I remember during the time where we were in a rocky road. It was towards the end of our relationship. We had a lunch with a mutual friend, and afterwards I just felt weird. I felt anxious, and I was just like, why am I feeling anxious after this lunch? And
Mhm.
I had to sit with myself, and I was like, well, I feel anxious because I don't like being around her anymore.
Right.
Well, why don't you
Right.
like being around her? Well, I feel like I have to walk around eggshells when I speak to her. Why do you feel
Right.
like you have to walk on eggshells when you speak to her? Well, because she's very sensitive. And
Mhm.
I know, And typically this isn't a problem for me with anyone else, but when you've known someone for decades, you've protected that person. I protected that person, and I
Right.
shouldn't have. I should have just been okay with saying with what I'm going to say and deal with the consequences. But
Right.
because, and I was like, so I feel this way, and I'm like, I already knew that this friendship isn't going to be the same as it was before, and actually I just preferred not for it not to exist at all, because I
Mhm.
just don't think
Mhm.
we're ever going to see eye to eye. We're not going to be on the same page, and we outgrew each other. But
Right.
that, good for Madeline for understanding and seeing that, like, okay,
Yeah, no, and it just goes back to me always telling both my kids that communication is important. You got to communicate how you feel.
yes,
People can't read your mind. So you can't expect them to understand and know. And again, this is me telling them this is from my own experience and my mistakes that I've done
mhm.
in many different relationships, not just romantic relationships, but just relationships with friends and so on and so
We
forth.
didn't grow up that way. This is
No,
why my friendship of decades, I supported her in the way of like, okay, yeah, let me. I know she's gonna be sensitive if I say it this way. Let me
right,
just
right. Let
like,
me work
no,
around. And I was so proud of her when she nipped it in the bud. She tried, she liked her. It wasn't that she did disliked her, but
yeah,
after knowing her and realizing that she required a lot more of my daughter's time, that she knew that she just didn't have it in her to continue this type of
yeah,
friendship. And she said, "Hey, we just don't need to be friends."
right,
And the poor girl, she didn't really understand, like she couldn't get it. But I think that experience will help her in the long run. I'm talking about the other young girl,
yes,
because then she'll understand that people have boundaries. You wanting their attention all the time is not going to be priority. And if that's what you need from a friendship, then you need to find people who's going to give that to you and
right,
not be upset at those who can't give it to you. Just be able to let it go, because she was trying to still hold on to that
sure,
friendship, right? Like, how can we? Because we have all these other things going on. So how is it possible that we can't, we shouldn't be friends? And my daughter is very clear, girl, we don't have to be friends just because we're around the same people or around the same
right.
circle. It's part of life. Yes, we're gonna cross paths, and that's just it.
Yeah, and I think to what, not to just focus on the boundary aspect, but when it comes to your emotions and the fact that you can be triggered and understanding those, what does trigger you, because this is the easiest way to get manipulated. And this is
Mm-hmm.
how we as a society collectively, but I'm going to exclude myself from that collective because I refuse to be manipulated. But this is how society gets manipulated. Think about when you watch the news, when you hear politicians, what do they go after? They go after your heartstrings. And how do they
Yes.
do that? They do that by bringing up how this policy is going to impact your family. And what is family to you? Everything for most
Right.
people.
Right.
So they know how to go for the jugular, which is going to be your livelihood in a manner of your family, people that you love, in your community, and then convince you that if you don't vote this way or if you don't support this particular policy, well then you're going to be killing your family, kind of thing. And I'm just throwing out extremes, but they always go after whatever you're going to react to strongly. And so when you start to recognize that, okay, this is a stage, that's smoke, those are mirrors. Okay, this is fake news. Yeah, fake news all around. Then you see the manipulation for what it is. And so when you recognize, okay, this is two sides of the same coin. Okay, this is bullshit. Right. So you also think about corporate, I'm sorry, just to finish this one thought, like, and when it comes to corporations, because that's okay, that's the public sector, government. But then when you talk about the private sector and you think about corporations, think about what leads you to buy things. We talked about this in our abundance episode about how to, so much about how do we, not abundance episode, but our consumerism episode. Where do you spend your money and how do you spend your money? Why do you spend your money? And that is all, they go for your emotional reaction. Hey, where do
Right.
you stand in society? Where,
Right.
are you where you want to be in life? How are you doing compared to your neighbors? What's in your bank account?
Right.
That's how successful you are based on all these assets and all these, properties, or and it's just like, okay, you're convincing me that I'm not enough unless I do that, because you're going after how I feel as a person, my self-esteem. And so they thrive off of you being dysregulated, because if you're regulated, you don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. You have your boundaries set. You are confident and sure in yourself of what makes you feel good, and not because you're told that this will make you feel better, or that if you support this administration, you're going to get all of your needs met. No, first of all, it's the creator. And if you don't believe in the creator, then believe in yourself.
Okay.
Because you don't have to believe in the creator, but I know I do. And I'm highly favored. And nothing happens unless the creator says it's going to happen.
Right.
Or me. Because my words will shift timelines. So there's that.
Yeah. And I just want to point out too, when we talk about fake news, I want people to think of it in this way. When you see news or see things that come up on your timeline consistently, you need to start asking the question, why am I seeing this? Why is this piece the only thing being reported? Because trust and believe is far bigger than what's being reported. They're just taking, like Damaris had said, taking parts of a piece of the bigger news to try to get at your emotions, to get you riled up, to get you to focus on one thing while they're doing something else
It's a
on the
distraction.
other side.
Right.
So you have to, think about all of that. And I know it's much easier just to consume, but you also have to start critically thinking about that information that you are consuming. Like dig into it a little bit and come up with your own conclusion of what's really happening. So when we're talking about, you said about corporations, look at all the pharmaceutical companies. When you're watching TV, what commercials do you see the most? When we were younger, most commercials were geared towards stuff for children, right?
Yes.
Like the
I'm like,
like
the
the
new
food, the
toy.
cereals. I
Yes.
mean,
The series. Oh my goodness. You don't see that anymore.
you don't. What do you see now? You see a bunch of prescriptions or medications that they want you to go to your doctor to go ask for.
But you know what what's so funny to me about the most popular ones are? It's like to address your acne, weight loss, all things to emotionally trigger you, right? Your
Yeah.
appearance,
Yes.
look better. Do nah, I'm good. I'm good. And even the fact that I use the word fake news, people will be triggered by that.
I know. And that's why I
And I
wanted
love
I
that.
wanted yes, and that's why I wanted to go back to, because I know people would be like, "Oh, here fake news." But no, think about it.
Why is it triggering you? Because
Think about it.
the phrase itself is actually absolutely true.
Because the news that we hear, again, you have to vet the sources that you get your news from. Most of these big conglomerates
They're owned by like three corporations.
that are given the news, that are out there sharing the news and spreading the news and have the backing to spread this news in, why do you think they all report the same damn thing?
Right. Because they want you to focus on that instead of, honestly, the look. I know for some people, for many people, it's important to be aware of what's happening.
Yes.
Sure, yes. But the reality is that it is also a form of distraction. So it is incumbent upon you to make sure you're living to your fullest potential and to your purpose, and following your purpose and alignment in life. But how can you do that if you're constantly consumed with what you're being told what to do and how to do it, by watching the news, listening to your politicians, listening to government officials, listening to your family, your friends, society, the TV, reality shows? What?
Mm-hmm.
When? At what point are you listening to your intuition, to your to spirit, to really being led intuitively?
Yes.
Because honestly, that is how I come to the best decisions in my life,
Mm-hmm.
is by being led by my intuition. And so I'm less easy to manipulate. Not to say that I can't, because there are certain things that I would commit war crimes for. I won't
Right.
say it on this show.
Right. Right.
So that's one way I could be manipulated. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
but but in general, no, because I don't have the capacity to commit war crimes. So it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's all a reactive loop. It's just
Yes.
they just want you to react in that moment. It's a way to get everyone on the same page or create divisiveness. Like,
Yes.
I
And you
want
know
y'all
how they
all to
do
look
that?
at that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one way that gets done is by being gaslit by society. And also,
Mm.
for example, I feel like I said, when I was watching the show, the Love Island season, I felt like I was being gaslit by society, by these fans. And then I'm realizing, and I remember when we did an episode on us actually enforcing boundaries, this also being gaslit by therapists, where now you have too many boundaries, so now you're mean, right? Like it,
Right.
and I'm like, what y'all not gonna do is gaslight me into believing that now, because I'm protecting myself, that
Hmm.
I'm hurting others and I'm being mean. No, fix yourselves. I know me.
Right. Right.
As a matter of fact, now when you're telling me not to have boundaries or I shouldn't enforce my boundaries, now I'm going to have 100 more boundaries. Now I'm going to triple down. Now I'm going to be 30 toes down. Like, stop
Right.
playing with
And
me.
yeah, and the indicator for that is, are you happy? Are you at peace? Are you content with life? I mean, why do I have to uproot myself in the way I do things
To
because
make you feel
you
good,
feel
funny,
uncomfortable?
then that means you need to
That's a
work
you
on,
problem.
right, not a me problem. So that, to me, that is one way where this society will gaslight you into believing that, oh, yeah, no, you
Hmm.
shouldn't follow your intuition. You shouldn't set boundaries. And so we live in this world of buzzwords and, this constant
Hmm.
shift and change in definition of words to suit individual narratives. Here's
Yeah.
the thing, I'm still going by Merriam-Webster dictionary words. When I say this is exactly what I mean.
Right. Right.
No more, no less. You don't like it? That's not my problem. You figure out how to use precise language in your repertoire. Leave me out
Hmm.
of it.
Hmm. Yep. Yep.
And
Exactly
so,
that.
I think for me personally, being ruled by logic and being led by intuition, and sometimes the intuition and logic conflict, and then I go with my intuition,
Hmm.
because the logic will come from mind that's been conditioned by external factors, and so I have to rely on nature. I have to rely on intuition in those instances, but generally logic and intuition are in lockstep for the most part in my world. And I think when I'm driven by that and I live and I make decisions in that way, then I find that, yeah, things flow easier for me. I'm not getting really triggered
Right.
as I would have in the past. And again, that comes from working on healing certain things and really understanding myself, but taking the time to do that. And part of that is like, yeah,
Hmm.
it comes through healing, and you have to be ready for that. And not everyone's in that place to want to do that.
Yeah, what is that? That's increasing your emotional intelligence, right? You always talk
Yes,
about you have a high.
I have a high EQ, and people get mad. People get mad. I.e., not she. That is not she.
I don't get mad, but you always feel like you have to voice that. Like, okay,
Yep.
I heard it the 100th other time that you have a high EQ.
Well, because you act like you have amnesia
Good
sometimes.
for you.
Not the two finger clap. Not the two finger clap. Yeah, because sometimes I feel I need to remind you, because you move like you don't know that I
Wow.
have that. So what?
I just move.
Okay, okay, fine. But yes, I do, and I think it was a natural thing for me, but also it has sharpened over time
Yeah.
in my observation and in my lack of reacting, because I'm generally a pragmatic person. I'm less reactive, less emotional. You, on the
Hmm.
other hand, not in a bad way, but you have been more reactive in life
Oh
and
yeah.
you've moderated that.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, it was just different. And I think also, you being the oldest, me being the youngest, they talk about how you could grow up in the same household and
And have
have,
two different
yeah,
upbringings. Yeah.
two different upbringings, and it's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I didn't have to deal with the same stressors you did. And so I think I had the luxury and the liberty to be more observant to then be able to manipulate people around me to get them to do what I want. So, like my parents, I was like, okay, I know if I want to get this out of them, this is what I'm going to have to do.
Right,
This is what I'm
right.
going to appeal to them when I make this request. You recognize that in me, and then you push me to ask them for stuff.
That is
It worked
true.
out.
That is true
It worked out.
because I was the type of person I don't feel like having to manipulate you to do something, but I know somebody that can.
But then you didn't get the end result. What for me was like, I need to get this. So in order for me to get this, what do I need to do? I'm
Right,
looking at them and I'm like, oh, I need to do XYZ. This is what
right,
they like.
right.
Okay, bet.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
trying. I'm just tapping into the areas that I know would get me the result that I'm looking for.
Right. And it's called, and you're right. You're right. It's about reading the room.
Yes.
You read the room, pick up what's unsaid.
And that's emotional intelligence that people
Yes.
don't really understand
Yes.
that.
I didn't have that, especially growing, part of I think it was a struggle, for me in particular, because I was the oldest
Yes.
and I had this desire of wanting to do my own thing without having to be told every single
Okay.
time what to do, what not to do. It's just like, dang, I can't do shit. And so my mind is always was
Meanwhile, she's
more
8 years old.
no, I know. My mind is always like, well, how can I do something without having to ask permission? And I was always the type, ask for forgiveness rather than permission. That was my model, I think, since I was born.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
would always get in trouble because of that. But again,
Especially growing up in an immigrant household. They look at you
child,
like you're crazy. Like, oh, I'm
that
sorry.
was a problem. Yeah,
Yes, you were.
that was a problem. And I was a latchkey kid. I'm like, you ain't even here until like 6.
Wow.
It's my world up until then. Crazy, crazy. But yeah, it's the point is that you can develop this if you feel like you don't have that or you recognize that you lack the intuition to read the room, then that is your cue to start working on that and practicing that as you're interacting with others. It's as you're interacting with the different modalities out there like social media, the TV and all of that. It's just start practicing that emotional intelligence.
Yes, and sometimes it's you have to delete the apps for a little bit. Doesn't mean you have to delete your account, but so that you're not enticed or
Mhm.
tempted to open them up and spend hours looking at all these things of how you should live your life and all this fake
Yes.
shit
Yeah.
and be distracted from your real purpose. And if you want to enhance your emotional intelligence, then part of it is observation, getting out of your mind, right?
Mhm.
Being
Mhm.
aware of what's around you, but at the same time, like, yes, picking up on how you feel in certain rooms in terms of energy, looking at people and, just like, I don't know, it's very
And
natural for me, but it's so,
yeah, but
but
also stop chasing every argument. Those type of
yes, just
people who feel
listen.
like they just have to argue. I know
Yes.
cuz I could be that person.
Now she's like, that person. Yes, that person is me. I am that person. No, but Nachi, good for you for recognizing that. I didn't want to call you out on that because then I knew you would have felt away like, oh my God, you think you know everything, blah blah blah. You think you have a high EQ, blah. Yeah, I do, but my high EQ told me don't say anything.
Right.
She's not
Read the
prepared.
room. Read the room.
I already knew before we started recording. You had a mood about you, and I'm like, oh, what's wrong? You're like nothing. Fine, everything's the same. Okay, all right, we'll play this game. Like I don't know you. Like we're not 4 decades in this, bitch. Stop
Oh
playing with
my
me.
gosh.
But okay, we'll play your game because sometimes my sister's not ready for me to give her the raw uncut. But I recognize that that's the whole point. It's like
Yeah,
okay, I
yeah.
pull back. There are
Yeah,
times I'm like,
because
ooh,
no, and
I
it's
get
true.
it.
Yeah. When you stop chasing every argument,
Yes,
um, you start to hear what's really being said,
yes,
right? And not reacting or judging or having to what's you're listening to understand versus listening
respond.
to respond.
Yeah.
So people need to start practicing that more. I'm doing it. That's something that I continue to practice, because yeah, sometimes I listen so that I can respond like, okay, you said this, I'm gonna
You're like
come back with this one.
you're like 3 bullet points for that one statement. Meanwhile, it's like please listen to the rest of what they have to say. Yes, but that
So
and that is how you become dysregulated, right? Like, and that's
mhm,
exactly it, Nachi.
mhm.
It's just like stop listening to respond,
Yeah,
listen
yeah.
to understand, but also have your boundaries in place. And like if things just don't work, it don't work. And one of the other things that really helps me in terms of regulating my emotions is breathing exercises. And they say it everywhere. I mean, yes, there are various breathing techniques, and we have a breathwork episode that you guys should absolutely listen to. I need to
Mhm.
write down the episode. We have episode numbers, but I don't know. Do a
We'll put it
search.
in the notes. We'll
Yeah.
put it in the notes.
I'm like, do a search. Not just nice. She's like, we'll put it in the notes. Thank you, sister. Oh my God. We're about to lose listeners because I'm like, I don't know, look for it.
Just
No, but
search. Like,
but
girl.
but the breathing, but just very basic, simple breathing exercises of like inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your mouth, holding your breath. Nachi and I will do that with each other if we're feeling a certain way, right? Nachi like,
Mhm.
okay,
No, it's
let's see.
true.
We'll be on the phone, and if one of us is going through whatever, it's like, okay, pause, let's
Right.
breathe.
Right.
And I don't and breathing does it is a form of detoxification, not just simply because it's mental detoxification, but actually physically there is your body goes through physiological
Mhm.
changes when
Mhm.
you do deep breath exercises, and actually does release toxins, which is insane. And it's just something that people don't do enough of. So definitely practice deep breathing. Like that is huge. It'll save you on therapy. Yeah. But also
Yeah.
do therapy if it works for you. I encourage it for anybody that feels compelled to do it. I know for me, it's not something that I've done, not because I think it's bad. I think because my sister's my therapist, and then I'm my
Mhm.
own therapist too.
Right.
And then I just follow my intuition and my spirit guides.
Yeah,
So
because not everything needs therapy, to be
yeah.
honest. And I remember seeing this one therapist talk about how people are overutilizing
Mm,
therapy because they're not things that are normal, like part of normal life. They're looking at it as if it's traumatic, as if they shouldn't experience certain things. Now, yes, if there's traumatic events, you definitely want to seek therapy for. But I'm saying this so that people don't always feel, and I'm glad that you shared that you don't typically go for therapy, but it's not always necessary.
right.
So something but
What
you
do you do
shared
to
breathing,
yes, what do you
but
do?
I learned this one grounding method.
Mm,
It's called 5 4 3 2 1 method, a grounding method. And basically when you're feeling dysregulated, to stop what you're doing and identify 5 things that you see. Then go to 4 different things that you can feel and touch, right? And then 3, then stop and listen and identify 3 things that you can hear. And then 2, identify 2 things that you can smell, and then stop and taste one thing. Take something that you can taste.
oh, so it's like using all of your
All of
senses,
your
the five physical
senses.
senses.
Yes, yes. So yeah, I like it too. And I think it's simple enough that you can do that whenever, wherever. I
Yes.
mean, if you
It
stop and
brings
you
you
feel
back to reality.
it
Like it
does.
does ground you. Like I can see why it would ground you.
Right, because you're taking those few seconds, that 1 minute, to really see what's around you, taking the time to feel and touch, being present, right? You're being present by feeling and touching and listening, and then taking that last step of tasting something, whatever that is, an apple, it's like anything,
Yes.
but you're literally going through that sense, like feeling, like
Yes.
tasting every bite of that. So that is I think, a great grounding method that you can use when you start to feel dysregulated.
Yes, and it I think it's fantastic because it reminds me of I love going on Twitter, and especially when I'm watching like an episode of my favorite reality TV shows, and the discourse is always just like chef's kiss. Like people are so funny on Twitter, but at the same time people get really crazy. Like
Yeah.
they think that they're best friends with these people, like in the villa, for example. And
Right.
it's just like these are human beings. Relax, and it's not your life. You don't like chill. And people love to say they're like, go outside and touch grass,
I
like.
know.
And so when you're talking about the different senses and like touching up, it makes me laugh so hard because I crack up every time I see that. And it's like, yeah, go outside and touch grass. Like
Oh,
y'all are so caught
seriously.
up on this show that you are sounding insane. Insane in the
Yes.
membrane. Like
Yes.
go outside and
Yes.
touch grass. Like ground yourself. Like this isn't your life. Chill. And so, yes, I think that's actually quite perfect. And I think that aligns itself so nicely with also just the deep breathing
Mhm. Mhm.
and of course, meditation's always a good thing to do. But I think a lot of people have a harder time with meditation because you do have to, it's practice to get to a place
Yes.
where you really are clearing your mind. But another way to clear your mind if meditation doesn't come to you easily, for me, is when you're focusing on a specific task and you're only thinking about that task. You're not wandering, your mind's not
Yeah.
wandering like, oh, what else I have to do today? No, it's like if you're mowing the lawn, even though I know we're talking to people who mostly
Mhm.
live in New York City and don't have lawns, whatever, like if you're vacuum cleaning, if you're
Cleaning your
washing
house.
dishes,
Yeah. Mhm.
focus on cleaning this dish. And I tell you this, when I'm like that, things that I need to do or that I've been thinking about, the
Mhm.
answer will come to me. So
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
2 weeks now, maybe three, I have misplaced the car keys.
Oh, did you find it?
Yes, girl. And and to replace the car key is $400. I'm like,
Right.
girl,
Yeah,
bye. We're
yeah.
not doing this. We're gonna
Right.
find these keys. So I've been using my husband's keys, and I asked, I prayed, I said, please just let me know where they are. Just give me a hint.
Mhm.
And I was like probably like a week ago. But it only comes to me, the spirit guides will tell me when I'm quiet or
Right.
and
When you're
usually when I'm
still. Uh-huh.
quiet, it's still, it's like when I'm focused on whatever task I'm doing at that moment. So yeah, I was just like, I think I was in the kitchen doing something, just focused, and it came to me that it's in my Andy Warhol pistol bag. And I was like,
And there it was.
I went upstairs. I said, it's in there. And there it was. And
There
there
you
it was.
go. Yeah. No, that's a good one. Um, because it doesn't have to be, like you said, it doesn't have to be so much sitting down and being quiet. But if you're focused on one task, that is also a meditative practice. But
And
it
by the
also,
way, the reason I describe that bag is because that's a bag that I don't use often. Like it's the Andy Warhol pop art pistol bag. So it has like, his pop art of pistols. And it's a bag that I don't use often. And when I used it that one time weeks ago, I tossed my car keys in there and then I put it away and I forgot that was the one bag. And I checked all my other bags that I use regularly and I could not find it.
and that
And
was
it
like
was
in
like,
a closet somewhere.
yes, yes.
No, that's a good one. I also, for people like me who has a million things, multitasker, reframing whether something is urgent. So asking yourself, when you're starting to feel overwhelmed and you feel like you have to, or anxious because you feel like you have a long to-do list. Ask yourself, is this urgent? Is this mine to fix? And will this matter this week? And that's how I prioritize what I should be putting my energy to. And then I'm no longer overwhelmed or, feeling anxious because I feel like I got this long to do list and no time to do any. Sometimes it's just, it's not that important.
Right.
Like when I see dishes in the sink, dude, I don't need to do this right now. I don't have to rush and do the dishes right now, just so that I could say that I have a clean sink. Nah, mm, I'll get to it later.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
love
it.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I think we provided some good ones to start anyone's emotional regulation journey. This is what you have to do to not be a pawn in the hands of everyone else but yourself.
That's it.
Regulate yourself. Focus
That's
on
it.
you,
Because you could do so much for yourself and for society when you are in
the best version of you.
that, yes,
I
in
think people
that
just,
space.
it's so easy to forget that I don't know if I'm the best version of me, then I that is the biggest contribution you can have to the collective.
Mhm.
Period, point blank. You can't convince me otherwise of anything else.
Right.
You
Right.
want me to be miserable because you're miserable? Fuck out of here.
Right. Yeah.
On that note, I think this is a great episode. I hope that you guys got something out of this and that, again, making you think about your purpose in life, your alignment, making everything Nachi and I do is to help you vibrate higher, because ultimately that's what we're going to be on, different frequencies, and we're going to be Nachi and I working towards being at the highest frequency. So we want you to join us.
Right.
We want us to all come together, but I know not everybody can. But you got to do what you can to do what's right by you, not by anybody else. And that's not selfish, that's selfful. So, as a reminder, there's a lot of noise out there, but our message is consistent. Stop getting distracted by the smoke and mirrors. Tune out the noise and focus on your divine purpose in life. Vibrate higher to elevate your frequency. And always thank you for listening, guys.